electric.
Hi everyone, welcome back for another energy related video. It's the end of September, so time for an update. It's been a really good month. Not just stats wise either, there's been some significant changes here, and that's what I want to start with, the updates for what we've been doing here at home. The big one to start with was the tariff change, which I've covered in a previous video and in more detail coming up soon in a video about preparing for winter. But basically I've moved over from the Go Faster tariff, where I had 4 hours of cheap rate energy between 2:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the morning, and I've now got 6 hours of cheap rate energy from 11:30 at night, which is a nice 3 hours earlier, through to 5:30 in the morning, so an hour shorter in the morning. But I also get some extra slots of half an hour from Intelligent Octopus, as and when it suits them and suits charging my car according to the automatic schedule and what's going on with cheap green energy in the grid. So I'm getting those extra slots as well. So 6 plus extra versus the 4 that I had before. That's worked really well for us. And there's a couple of things to talk about with that, in that I was apprehensive of moving to a tariff where Octopus were controlling the charging of my car. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to be in control. I liked just setting a schedule, and those were the hours that I actually got. The schedule's set in the Zappy, My Energy app, and that would charge the car. I've never used the car timers. So moving to something that maybe involved the car or maybe involved Octopus deciding what to do, I'll confess I was apprehensive of it, and I was tempted to stay with Go just for the simplicity. So it's worth saying now, after a few weeks of using it and discounting using the mini integration, which actually failed for me, I think because I don't get good reception for the car. Here it uses a 3G or 4G SIM card inside the car for that communication, and it wasn't reliable enough. Using the beta My Energy Zappy integration, and I'm actually using a Zappy 1 as well, not a Zappy 2, that is super reliable over Wi-Fi. So you simply set what you want in the Octopus app. It then gives you a schedule quite quickly, and when the time arrives for that schedule, or if it changes overnight, Octopus then decide to charge your car at the right time, and you get your charge. You get your charge you want. There's quite a significant change in how I do things as well, because I used to charge the car by calculating, right, I'm at 60% state of charge, I want 80 or 90%, so it's 30%, third of the battery, a third of 28, 29 kilowatt hours, that's what, 7-8 kilowatt hours. I want to add 8 kilowatt hours. It's 7 kilowatts of power. Therefore, that's just over an hour of charging I need. And that's the sort of calculation I used to do, working out how much time I needed to charge for to get the right percentage on the battery in the Mini or in the Golf. Now it's different because I'm not having to do those calculations. It's not time-based. I say when I want the car ready by and what percentage I want the percentage of the car to increase by. So if I set it to say I want 25%, I'm going to get a quarter of the battery size added every day. Now I say every day, if you leave the car plugged in, then the Zappy boost amount of kilowatt hours that you've received stays consistent. I don't know if you've seen that before. So if I charge over 3 days and don't unplug it and I set it to 25%, I'm not going to get 25% each day, because once it reaches 25%, the boost timer will say I've received the, what's that going to be, 7 or 8 kilowatt hours of energy. So as soon as you unplug and plug in, it resets it to 0, and then the next day you'll get your 25% again. So long as you're unplugging and plugging in, I'll get 25% every day if it's set to 25%. But if I don't, if I leave it plugged in, then the second day it won't charge because it's already met that charging criteria. The Zappy says the boost has boosted 8 kilowatt hours. I hope that makes sense. So it is a nice change in that it's actually simpler. There's less calculations involved. I just have to say how much percentage of the battery do I want to add today. Now, because I've got 2 electric cars and they've got different battery sizes, whichever car I've configured with Octopus Energy, which is my Mini, then that percentage is 25% or 30%, whatever I set, of the Mini's size battery. If I plug a different car in, I just have to take that into account. It's not 25% of the car that's plugged in. Octopus isn't recognizing multiple cars. It's configured for the one. So as long as you remember that as well. So I think it's actually simpler. So for someone that was apprehensive of letting go and something else controlling the car automatically, I've been very happy with how it's worked. But anyway, we don't want to talk about energy tariffs all day. The other big thing that's been happening here is the room that I'm sitting in, the kitchen. We've been having a kitchen refurb go on that went on for all of August and first week of September as well. And it's occupied my time for months now on designing it, on buying components for it, and then working with the fitters to work out what we're going to do and how we're going to actually do it. And it's all finished, and I'm really happy with the result. It's worth sharing some of the detail with you because it sort of merges in that there's been a lot of thoughts about how this kitchen is going to be energy efficient, and there's been a nice change of some extra energy efficiency that I didn't actually expect. So it's worth covering a little bit about it. The way I went about designing our kitchen was looking at the problems we had with the existing one. So I'll put an image up of our existing kitchen. And I used to see things like the kitchen felt narrow. It felt like a galley kitchen because of the fitted units going all the way down the side and all the way around. You're just left with this galley in the middle. And we were always bumping into each other. If one person wanted to go to the fridge and one person was cooking and you wanted a cup of tea at the same time, there just seemed to be not a lot of space. Everything was congregated in that one section in the kitchen. And then on the side that I'm sitting in, on the kitchen here, this was just a table, and it felt disjointed from the rest of the kitchen. It didn't feel as though it was part of it. So what I wanted to do was integrate the kitchen so it felt like one room. It felt more together. So the way I've achieved that is not to have built-in cupboards all the way round. We've gone for a single bespoke table, bench, cupboard at the end that goes the full length of the room. And that was a challenge to get in the room because it's 2.8 meters wide, and getting it through doors and angling it past everything was a challenge. The pipes, that is. So we had to fit that while the kitchen was physically empty before we started fitting any new kitchen around it, and then working out when the electricians were going to refit all new sockets, etc. around. The timing and the coordination of two companies delivering their stuff and making the kitchen was a challenge. But anyway, that unit across the length of it was going to give a wider feel to the room because we didn't have units going all the way around. And it should have given better access to the corner areas where, you know, it's like with corner cupboards, you can never quite get into them. And you can buy cupboards where you open the door and then the unit sort of slides out to you on some sort of rotary system. But I've never been a fan of those. They never seem to work quite right and you never maximise the space. So we've now just got a straight, simple shelf and everything's quite accessible. On this side of the room, we've got a mirroring unit. This is 2.6 metres on this side. It's a different width the other end of the room. And because it mirrors it, and because the table here and this breakfast area that I'm sitting at is made of the same solid oak, and also a breakfast bar to my right, I'll put some pictures up so you can see those. It brings the room together. It makes it feel together. So we've got no green fitted units this end. It's all oak this end. But because the oak's the other end, it makes it feel like one room. We've got rid of the coving, we've gone cupboards all the way to the top, so we've now got more storage as well. And everything's working really well. So that's the design of the kitchen. So everything's been changed. The oven was basically half broken anyway. Only one of the oven out of the twin ovens worked. We've gone for a single oven and a separate independent microwave. The single oven is 2.4 kilowatts. It was 2.7 before, so we're making some energy savings there. The washing machine was a 5.5 kilogram load. It's now 8 kilogram or maybe 9 kilogram load, I can't remember, with some nice eco programs. So we're saving some energy with that as well. That's working well. The hob was a 4-ring hob, square one, as most are. We've gone for two 2-ring hobs. So we've got one over here to my left that we use for making tea and coffee. And then we've got another one exactly the same on the other side of the room for cooking, etc. So now we can do more things in separate areas of the kitchen. The fridge has moved as well, so that's more accessible as well. So everything in the kitchen feels better for solving the problems that I wanted, and we've got more energy efficiency. The inverter hobs, induction hobs, are much better as well. The old ones we had used to pulse a lot, so they pulsed so fast that the battery couldn't pick up the load changes. So it would actually be drawing from the grid and drawing from the battery at times when we just wanted to draw from the battery, so that was annoying. These ones work better now, so we can actually have them down on simmer, and actually we're drawing a consistent amount of load. So that's working better for us as well, having new devices. But the thing that's changed that we didn't expect was the washing up that we used to do. While we're having the kitchen changed, we're basically almost camping. We're washing up mugs and plates outside in a plastic bowl on an outside table. And that led us to think, well, maybe we should put the plastic bowl inside the Belfast Butler sink so we don't damage the sink. So we've been doing that since the kitchen's been done. And because the bowl is smaller than the sink, we've been using less hot water. And that really has been noticeable. So this month's statistic for the MyEnergy Eddy heating our hot water via the Mixergy tank is, I think, 69 kilowatt hours. That's the lowest number we've ever had. So that's been working really well as well. So we've now got a new method of washing up that's working as a result of changing the kitchen. So lots and lots of positivity. The one negative side, I suppose, is the lights. I've changed from what we used to have, the G10 halogen light bulbs, and they were changed for LEDs, but they're the same units. So just on a switch that turns one bank of lights on one end of the kitchen, one bank of lights on this section of the kitchen, and on a dimmer switch, but the dimmer switch was never changed to be compatible with LEDs. It wasn't quite very good. We've gone for Lumery Smart recessed lights, so the same brand that I tested with outside floodlights. And because that's worked so well with Alexa and the Wi-Fi connectivity and the reliability of the lights, I chose that brand and those products. And we've gone for a mix of what I'd say is spotlights that can be moved to change the direction. So we've got 4 of those that are more the traditional spotlights, but then 4 larger, slightly better diffused lights as well. So the light in the room is actually much better. But because each individual light is now Wi-Fi controlled and powered separately, we've got much more flexibility about what colour we set, what brightness we set, and which ones are on when. So instead of having a whole bank of lights left on, we can just have one light left on, and then we might not turn that off at all because we don't use the switches to turn lights on and off anymore. It's all automatic on a schedule, or she who shall not be named, her name, can turn on the lights as and when we want as well, or turn them off, etc. So that's been working really well. Energy-wise, though, those lights mean that while they're on, we're probably using less energy, even though we're replacing LED with LED. I think we're using less energy while they're on because the brightness is better and we've got less physical lights on at once. But when they're off, they're all actually still on in standby with Wi-Fi connected, etc. So we've got a bigger base load. I think it's about 5 watts in total while they're off. So we've got a load increase as a result of putting those lights in, but they do work a lot better, and it does offer a better light solution here in the kitchen. So I'm very, very happy with them, but there is that negativity. So everything else I've been trying to gain in energy, I'm not certain yet whether we're getting a energy efficiency saving by the way that I've implemented those lights. The fridge was the one that was annoying because the size of the fridge we wanted, 54 centimetres wide, and I didn't want a 2 metre tall one. I couldn't find any other fridges other than energy efficiency F rated. So yeah, F rating is all we could get. Luckily, that's actually the equivalent of what used to be an A or B rating years ago. So our energy efficiency in the fridge is exactly the same as the old Bosch unit that we've taken out, which was about 10, 15 years old. So energy efficiency wise, we're no better off with the fridge, but at least we're no worse off. So anyway, there you go. Our kitchen has changed. We're very, very happy with it. Problems have been solved. And energy efficiency wise, I'm really happy with what's happening here. Light wise, the washing, the cooking, etc., the induction hobs, everything's worked out really well. And it does feel like we're in a better designed room. So I've really enjoyed doing that project. But anyway, less about tariffs and less about kitchens. Let's get on with some statistics and how have we got on in September with our solar energy and what have we done with it? And to start with, been a record month, but here you go. Here's the stats in some nice graphs.
Solar generation for September was 852 kilowatt hours, and what you can definitely see is at the start we had a mini heat wave and lots of sunshine, and it's been a downward trend for most of the month. We peaked on the 5th of September with 45 kilowatt hours, and on the 19th of September we had our lowest generation day of just 8 kilowatt hours. So September's the first month after summer that we're really noticing a dip in generation, but we got more to come. So in October we're obviously expecting less, but the real dip, that's going to be November, December and January. The breakdown for our 3 solar arrays are 438 kilowatt hours for the 3.6 kilowatt Solis inverter. That's got 3.9 kilowatts of solar panels. 161 kilowatt hours from our latest array. That's a Solis inverter again, 2.5 kilowatts for the inverter, with a total of, what is it? It's about 2.8, 2.9 kilowatts of solar panels, but we only have a peak at 1.4 kilowatts from that array, because some of it's east facing, some of it's south facing. And finally, our Solaredge array, that's 2 kilowatts for the inverter with 2.4 kilowatts of solar panels, generated 253 kilowatt hours. Adding those numbers into the chart that shows the previous September generation, 438 kilowatt hours is the highest we've had from that Solis inverter. 253 is also the highest we've had from Solaredge as well. So it's a record month. Who'd have thought it? This energy chart from Home Assistant is a nice one because it's showing the solar generation in orange, plus also purple, the amount we're exporting back to the grid. As you can see, we've got quite a lot of export. So from that, it tells us that we're generating more than we're using. But also there's some blue there, the amount we're importing from the grid. Because I've been testing the Octopus intelligent app charging the cars, I have been charging from the grid as well. And partly that's the reason why we're exporting, because I don't need the excess solar generation to charge the cars. They have already been charged from the grid. An interesting side statistic, while I was looking at solar generation, I had a look at how much we generated in 2022 completely. That was 9.2 megawatt hours, but then compared to the first half of 2023 to see how we were doing compared to last year. And it was exactly half. So half the year generated half of what we generated in 2022. Now, I wonder whether we will get again 50% in the second half. Will it be the same? Sort of feels like it is sort of an average year, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how winter goes. So just like solar generation, export has reduced from the higher summer months. We're at 313 kilowatt hours of export this month. October should be less, but then November, December and January, yep, hopefully we won't be exporting very much at all. Import from the grid was just 39.27 kilowatt hours from Octopus Energy. That was a mixture of 3 tariffs, a little bit of Go to start with, then some flexible, and finally with some Octopus Intelligent. And yeah, the grid draw mostly charging the electric cars, testing out that new tariff. Total cost £15.35. So where did all that energy go then? If we exported 313 and generated 852, there's quite a chunk there that we did actually use. The first, this is one of our Shelly monitors, monitoring the circuit for our air-to-air heating, air conditioning system, and we used 46.33 kilowatt hours there. That's all air conditioning, not heating. And as you can see, in the start of the month, we used it a lot more than we did towards the end. But every now and then, just like today, we've actually had the air conditioning on, sometimes just to lower the humidity in the house because it just feels a little bit sticky. So temperatures aren't quite reducing to the point where we're switching over from cooling down to wanting to heat up. I'm sure it won't be long though. Give it another week or so. On to individual devices now. So the microwave, that was 5 kilowatt hours. The internet hub, that is 9.43 kilowatt hours. These are being monitored by Casa smart plugs. The oven and hob, 12.15 kilowatt hours. The TV in our lounge, 17.25 kilowatt hours. My beer fridge, 26.71 kilowatt hours. Kitchen sockets, 42.9 kilowatt hours. Toshiba air conditioning, we already know that was 46 kilowatt hours. The Zappi from the grid, 53 kilowatt hours, that's battery as well. Eddy from solar, 69.61 kilowatt hours. That is another record, the lowest we've had for heating hot water. And the Zappi from solar, 183 kilowatt hours. Did you notice there the new energy monitor kitchen sockets? Rather than having Casa smart plugs on all the individual devices, I've decided to have another Shelly monitor and monitor the circuit for all of the kitchen sockets as well. So now I've got one on the oven and hob and one on the rest of the kitchen. I'm often asked how I get all this interesting detailed data about different devices and how much energy they've used, and all of these independent devices using Casa smart plugs, My Energy, Toshiba, etc. and Shelly, they all import into Home Assistant. The My Energy app's view of our consumption of data looks like this. As I said, the lowest we've had for hot water on the Eddy, 69.6 kilowatt hours, the Zappi in total, 236.6 kilowatt hours, and the Home, 310.8 kilowatt hours. Both the Zappi and the Home numbers there are quite consistent and similar to previous months. Electric car wise, we did about 1,300 miles between the Mini and the Golf. So again, that's quite consistent. So it's just the Eddy and the hot water that's lower than normal by a decent percentage, about 10 kilowatt hours. Moving on to our battery data, this is the view from Victron's VRM, the monitoring system for the Victron inverter, and the blue lines at the top, that's what we're interested in for the depth of discharge for the battery. So the deeper the blue, the more we've reduced the charge of battery overnight down to a lower percentage in the scale of percentages on the right hand side. So as you can see there, we're only dipping to about 75–80% on most of the days. All of the summer months, including September, we don't use very much battery, apart from that one day on the 20th of September, when, yep, I was doing some intelligent Octopus testing and drained the battery completely. Okay, a slight exaggeration. We drained it down to 20%. Moving on to hot water next. So this is the hot water tank data coming from Mixergy and being shown on the Home Assistant app. What we can see here is we're peaking at temperatures of about 56–57 degrees C, and only on one day we went below 45 degrees. This chart is showing the amount of hot water we have, the percentage of the tank that's filled with hot water. Most days, as you can see, it gets to 100%. We've got plenty of excess, so it will be full. And most days, we're not going below 60%. Now, I've seen this before, but I've reported it again to Mixergy. If you look at the right-hand side of this graph, we can see a reduction in the highest temperature of the coldest section of the hot water tank. Basically, when we're trying to fill the entire tank to 100%, the last few percent aren't heating up above 50 degrees. So I'm not getting an automatic cleanse of the tank. If you don't do a cleanse automatically, then the system will do it for you on a preset time schedule, and that's to ensure you don't get any Legionella in the tank. So there's a bit of an anomaly going on when they keep doing software updates, that this new software version isn't allowing my tank to fill to 100% at above 50 degrees Celsius water. So that's been reported to them again, and they've backed it out, and I'm on an older version of software now. So it'd be interesting to see when that gets fixed. The Mixergy data also supports that September was a very low month for hot water usage. We used 1,976 litres of hot water. And the last chart I'll show, just for completeness, is the My Energy summary chart. We were 92% green, 92% self-sufficient using our own energy.
As always, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope there's something of interest there for you. And as always, again, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know how you've got on this month and what sort of solar solution you've got. What have you been doing? What did you pick up from this video that meant something to you and you've been thinking about something similar? It's always interesting to hear what people think and how we're changing tariff-wise, energy efficiency-wise, products. It's great to share all that sort of information. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care and see you again soon for more videos, more electrical fun. Bye for now.
One final thought for those that love watching these videos all the way until the end, and that's the kitchen and its cost. I wonder how long it'll take to pay back. Lots of people ask, don't they, for solar panels and batteries, but not for things like conservatories, changing your carpets or the kitchen, and yet I've spent more money on that kitchen than I have on all of my solar panels and the batteries and the Mixergy tank, everything. I think I'd rather have the solar panels than a new kitchen, but I'm very fortunate. I can have both.